What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So we are up here at the shop, and if you can't tell by the title and thumbnail of this video, today we're going to be getting into a few things that you need to look for when buying an Sn95 car. Some stuff that, like mechanical stuff, some electrical stuff, and just all around in general, things to look at whenever you're buying pretty much really any car. So we got Ryan up here as well. He's working on his car, trying to get it ready to go for the supercharger stuff, where he's working on the intercooler stuff right now. We actually had to get, after we got all the piping cut, we had it bead rolled so it would have a nice, lip for the couplers to grab onto. That way it don't blow them off as easy. Anyways, enough of this crappy GTO LS turd. I done told you, whenever you get it done, and I'm gonna beat you anyways, you're gonna be mad.
You're gonna blow through cars before you beat me. That thing ain't holding on. Baby Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know how it's lasted as long as it has, but it has, and we're gonna keep on going. Let's just knock on wood real quick. Also, guys, before we get too far into this video, I have a really big announcement for the next video, so be sure to stay tuned for the next video. You definitely don't want to miss out because it's huge. So getting into the video, like I said, we're going to be talking about some things to look for on these Sn95 5.0 cars and the 4.6 cars as well. And what we're going to talk about is body and chassis issues first. And since I got it on the lift, I'm going to raise it up and show you guys some of the stuff to look out for. All right, so getting up under the Mustang here, one thing you want to look for is your rear control arm bushings. Now, this isn't something that typically goes bad on these cars, new or anything, but most of these cars, as you guys know, are 20, 25 years old now, so they're pretty aged. One thing you want to look at is your rear control arm bushings, which are these bushings right here. These are your upper rears here, your lower rears here, next to the shock or in front of the shock, right there. Sorry, the light's like really bright. These are your rear lowers here, right in front of the shock, and your front bushings here, and the same thing for the other side, and also the upper fronts, which are up above the exhaust connected to the chassis. Now, I've seen this a lot on these Sn95 cars where you'll be driving down the road and the rear end kind of feels like it's just kind of walking out and back with you, and it's usually due to the bushings and the rear trailing arms just a little either worn out or just blown completely out. Now my car still got 100% stock stuff in it, but luckily for me, the bushings are still pretty good. The only time I can really feel the rear end of my car sort of feel like it wants to track a little weird is at the drag strip under hard launches, but that stuff's going to be changed soon enough. I'm going to be putting some solid one-piece lower control arms and upper control arms for the rear and taking off the quad shocks. While we're talking about the rear of the car, also what you want to look for is just really simple to do. Just lay up under it, look up under the back of the car, and see if there's any structural damage along the back of the car, especially in the frame area of the car. And I know this doesn't have a frame, but it's technically a unibody, but is to look at these crash panels here up above the exhaust, if it has exhaust back here. But I would definitely take a look up in the back of the car and look for any structural damage on these frame rails right here, which is technically not frame rails like I said, but definitely take a look and just make sure that none of this stuff is bent. Not that it's gonna cause any real issues, but you don't really wanna buy a car that's been in a major accident or anything like that, especially a rear collision, which most of these cars, if it's been in a major collision, it's totaled anyway and it's in a junkyard somewhere. Another thing you definitely wanna look for on these Sn95 cars and a Fox body as well is to look at the strut towers. The strut towers are really bad about rusting out in here where the K-frame bolts up. And yeah, my inner fender liners are not in here. I don't drive this car much in the rain or anything, and I have it wire tucked, so I don't drive it a lot in the rain, and I don't really care if it has fender liners. Plus, it really helps for showing you this in this video. But yeah, guys, definitely watch out for the strut towers, even up here at the top. I know you can't see that. Let me get a light. Even up there at the top. And I know this stuff's gonna be hard to look at on the ground, but if you can crawl up under it and just look, even look through above the tire at the top of the strut tower here, where, like I said, where these bolts are here, you definitely need to look for that, especially for up north cars. Because if this strut tower rusts out, I mean, the car is pretty much done for, unless you can find somebody who really wants to fix that.
Can I say one thing?
You can say one thing.
Okay. So if you're looking at a Mustang, you just need to think about what you're doing with your life. And just really take it in, think about it real hard.
So pretty much don't buy a Mustang.
Yeah.
Well, what should you buy? And please don't say a GTO. A Chevy. Okay.
I got 4 of them.
He does have a lot of Chevys. What you got? You got an El Camino, you got the GTO, you got your truck, and you got an S10.
Yeah.
He's Chevy poor right now. And while we're in here, definitely take a look at the structural frame right here and just make sure it's never been in a bad front end collision, because like I say, these cars are old. Could have happened at some point. This is basic stuff you pretty much want to look at for really any car. So with all that being said, we're gonna move on to the drivetrain side of things and show you some stuff to look out for there. Now while you're on your test drive, definitely listen for drivetrain noise, and we're gonna start back here at the back. And in the back of these Mustangs has a 8.8 rear end, which are great rear ends. I don't have usually any issues with them, but they are older nowadays. Like I said, 24, 25-year-old rear ends, and if nothing's been done to them, you're definitely going to want to listen for any ringing, roaring, or whining noises, because they do tend to have a little bit of ring and pinion whine after so many miles. Also, I've had to put bearings in a few 8.8 rear ends. Nothing serious, but just stuff that was making some noise. So definitely be sure to listen for that. Moving on up to the T5 transmission. Now the T5s aren't the greatest transmissions in the world when it comes to beating on them. Luckily, I've had pretty good luck out of this one. You know, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself. But what you're definitely going to want to listen for with the T5 5-speed, listen for any kind of grinding when you're going through the gears or gears that pop out, because these things do have issues with synchronizers going bad. And whenever people beat on them, they usually bend the shift forks, and they usually take and kill the synchronizers in them. But yeah, whenever people beat on these things and try to power shift them and stuff, especially, I mean even stock, whenever people shift them really fast, really hard, it does tend to bend the shift forks, especially if the synchronizers are having issues and stuff like that with going into gear and grinding and stuff like that. And they're also bad about knocking the teeth off the shift fork where the bushing rides. So that's definitely just some small stuff to look out for with the T5s. Now with the automatics, definitely go test drive them. The AOD transmissions, they're not, like I said, they're not terrible. Well, most of them's got a ton of miles on them now because these cars get drove. So make sure to get on it a little bit. Make sure you don't feel any kind of slipping in the transmission, and make sure that whenever you test drive it, ask them if the car can be cold. That way you can start the car up, because a lot of times a transmission will work good when it's cold and then not when it's hot. And then sometimes it's reversed. Sometimes they don't work good cold and they shift better when they get hot. It just depends. Another thing to look out for is the rear main seal and oil pan leak. The 302 small block Fords tend to have a rear main seal oil leak issue. Now my car is fine, but I put a new rear main seal in, I don't know, 2 years ago, and the car maybe has 6,000-7,000 miles on that rear main seal, so it's still pretty good. But definitely look for any kind of oil leaks, transmission leaks, water or antifreeze leaks, or anything like that. Another thing you're going to want to do is take and check the ball joints on these cars. Now most of the ball joints in these cars has probably already been changed by now, because they do have issues with them going out. But the best way to do that is to jack the car up, take and pick up on the bottom of this wheel here and just pick straight up. And if it has any play there, most of the time, 90% of the time, it's that ball joint, because it only has a lower ball joint. It doesn't have an upper. It's just got a spindle that goes to a strut straight up to the top. But it's still good things to look out for. Okay, so on the older 302s, these things are actually kind of bad about, and it actually happened to me. The block splitting between the water jackets and the bolt hole for the head bolt, and it can actually crack all the way to the cylinder wall. And that's what happened to me. And so with that being said, what you're gonna need to do is just pull the oil dipstick and make sure there's no water or anything like that down inside the oil pan or getting in the oil. Which all you'll have to do, like I said, pull the dipstick. If it looks like chocolate milk in there or slightly like that, don't buy it. That goes for the same for any car. The 4.6, a Chevy truck, anything you're looking at. Unless it's a project and you don't care, buy it. But if it's getting water in the oil and it's something that you're going to want to pretty much daily for a little while, I wouldn't buy it. And with the automatic transmissions, be sure to pull the dipstick tube on that. Just smell it. Smell and make sure it doesn't smell like it's been set on fire, because like I say, the automatics, they tend to have transmission issues after a while with the AOD trans. And also while you're up top, just be sure to check for any kind of water leaks. And these older 302s have a issue with the timing covers leaking, and they'll leak a little bit of oil, but most of the time they leak antifreeze. Out from where the water pump pumps water through the timing cover into the engine, into the front side of the engine block, a lot of times that gasket tends to go bad over the years, and it's just a notorious problem just to look out for. And it's an expensive fix if you don't know how to do it yourself. And of course, be on the lookout for any kind of strange engine noises or anything like that. Like I say, if you can, tell the people you're buying it from or whoever you're getting it from to let it be cold whenever you first get there. That way, whenever you start it up, because sometimes these engines will make a little bit of noise cold, they get heat in them and the noise goes away. And it could be something as little as a lifter noise, or it could be something as bad as a crankshaft bearing going bad, or a thrust bearing. I've seen these old 302s have thrust bearing issues as well, which is the very center bearing in the crankshaft that keeps the crankshaft from moving forward and back. And I have one more thing on the interior side that you're going to want to look for on these cars, and it has to do with the heater cord. Now the heater cord on these 302s are over there on the passenger side, in behind all the dash and in the HVAC box. And on these older Mustangs, they're definitely bad about going out. Luckily, I haven't had to change mine. I really hope I never have to, because I hate pulling dashes, even though this dash isn't terrible to get out. Not for me. I've been, like I say, I've been a mechanic for a while, but still don't like doing heater cord. And what I would do, guys, is check the floorboard on this side just to make sure that it's not wet and it doesn't smell like antifreeze. And of course, antifreeze is gonna have like a sweet smell, kind of like a, and if it's hot, it kind of smells like burning syrup, like really hot maple syrup. But that's pretty much the only thing I know of on the interior to look for. Of course, make sure everything's working properly, like the AC, the heat. Make sure there's no mold growing or anything like that anywhere. Make sure there's no water leaks getting in the floor. Like I say, check the floorboards for water. Sometimes the windows on these things tend to leak if the window isn't adjusted properly, or the window stopper is not adjusted properly, because these things do have window stoppers, and sometimes if they're not quite adjusted right, the water will seep by and definitely drip down in the floorboards and stuff. So that's just some stuff for you guys to look at. Other than that, make sure all your switches, gauges, and all that stuff works fine. And if it does, you should be good to go. So that's gonna do it for this video, guys. And I know this video was a little bit short and sweet, but the next video, like I say, got a big announcement, so stick around for that. If you did enjoy this video and it helped you out, be sure to drop a like on this video. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you can stay up to date with all the content that's gonna be coming out on Onyx right here, and also this blue GTO that we're working on. We're putting a supercharger on it right there. But other than that, guys, as for me and Onyx here, we're out.